It was the early 1950s in New York. Whitey Ford and the New York Yankees were dominating every World Series. Bill Haley and the Comets' Rock Around the Clock record was topping the charts. The first commercial computer was produced in the United States. Capital Wrestling Corporation was founded by Jess McMahon and Toots Mondt, and in 1953 became a member of the National Wrestling Alliance. Capital Wrestling Corporation was the sanctioning body for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, which for those that have been living under a rock for the past 40 years is the precursor for today's WWE. The National Wrestling Alliance recognized an undisputed NWA World Heavyweight Champion that went to several different professional wrestling promotions across the globe defending the title. The NWA generally promoted strong shooters as champions to give their sport credibility and guard against double-crossers. While doing strong business in the Midwest, these wrestlers attracted little interest along the eastern seaboard in the Capital Wrestling Corporation territory. And to top it off, in November 1954, Jess McMahon passed away. The 1927 Evening News described Jess McMahon as the greatest matchmaker and one of the first promoters to cross the color line by giving wrestlers of diverse cultural backgrounds equal opportunities at a time of racial divide. Jess was loved highly and respected by fans of all ethnic backgrounds. Mondt brought in Jess's son Vincent James. The younger McMahon and Mondt were very successful and soon controlled approximately 70% of the NWA's booking, largely due to their dominance in the heavily populated Northeast region. In 1961, the NWA board decided to put the championship on bleach blonde showman Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, who was an effective drawing card in the region. The rest of the NWA was unhappy with Mondt because he rarely allowed Rogers to wrestle outside the Northeast. Mondt and McMahon wanted Rogers to hold up the physical NWA World Heavyweight title, but Rogers was unwilling to sacrifice his $25,000 cash deposit on the championship belt. Rogers lost the NWA World Heavyweight Championship to Lou Thez in a one-fall match in front of 9,000 fans in Toronto, Ontario on January 24, 1963. This led to Mondt, McMahon, and the Capital Wrestling Corporation leaving the NWA in protest, creating the Worldwide Wrestling Federation in the process. In April that year, Rogers was awarded the new WWWF World Heavyweight Championship, supposedly winning a fictional tournament in Rio de Janeiro. He lost the championship to Bruno Sammartino a month later on May 17, 1963, after suffering a heart attack days before the match. To accommodate Rogers' condition, the match was booked to last under a minute. Notable wrestlers from this era included Haystacks Calhoun, Al Costello, Captain Lou Albano, Pat Barrett, Classy Freddie Blassie, Johnny Valentine, Bruno Sammartino, Arnold Skoland, Lord Littlebrook, and Johnny Powers. Bruno Sammartino would retain the title for 7 years, 8 months, and 1 day, making his the longest continuous world championship reign in men's wrestling history. Although Sammartino was the face of the WWWF, wrestlers such as superstar Billy Graham and Bob Backlund were also hugely popular. The Federation gained notoriety in the 1970s by holding their biggest shows at Shea Stadium or Madison Square Gardens and doing strong business across the entire Northeast region. They leveraged former but still popular wrestlers such as Captain Lou Albano, Grand Wizard of Wrestling Ernie Roth, and Classy Freddie Blassie to act as managers for Sammartino's heel opponents. Around this time, only fan-favorite wrestlers were allowed to have long championship reigns, such as Bruno Sammartino, Pedro Morales, and Bob Backlund, who all retained for more than 1 year each. The heel champions, such as Ivan Koloff and Stan Stasiak, were used to transition the championship from one wrestler to another, and they generally kept the title for no more than a single month-long program before dropping it to the next good guy. Superstar Billy Graham was the only heel character to keep his championship for longer than 1 month, as the WWWF felt it needed time to build Bob Backlund up as championship material. The WWWF was relatively conservative for promotions of its day, running its major arenas monthly rather than weekly or bi-weekly. Programs generally involved a babyface champion facing a heel challenger for 1 to 3 meetings in each scheduled town. For longer programs, a heel would often win the first match in a non-decisive manner, such as countout or via excessive blood loss. The champion would then retain in an ultra-violent blow-off match, such as a steel cage match or Texas Death Match. Unlike most of the NWA territories, the main event would occur in the middle of the show cards, allowing the company to build upon the match's finish in order to sell tickets for the next event. Reliable, popular workers such as Chief Jay Strongbow or Andre the Giant would then wrestle at the end of the show to send the crowd home happy. The WWWF also featured popular wrestlers based out of different territories, such as Dusty Rhodes, and retained the services of the most popular and highly paid wrestler at the time, Andre the Giant. Toots Mondt left the WWWF in the late 60s, and Vincent J. McMahon assumed complete control of the organization. After gaining a television program deal and turning preliminary wrestler Lou Albano into a manager for San Martino's heel opponents, the WWWF was doing sell-out business. Later that year, the Mongols created controversy after they left the federation with the WWWF International Tag Team Championship. The title would be considered inactive as a result, until Luke Graham and Tarzan Tyler won a tournament to claim the championship. They then defeated the Mongols in November 1971, voiding any claim the Mongols had to the titles. In 1976, Vince McMahon Sr. sold tickets to a closed-circuit telecast of the Muhammad Ali vs. Antonio Inoki fight at Shea Stadium and drew a crowd of over 32,000. That night, the Ali and the Inoki fight would be the main event on a card that also featured Andre the Giant versus boxer Chuck Wepner. Ali was reported to have been guaranteed $6 million, but the actual match failed to live up to the hype. At the annual meeting of the NWA in 1983, the McMahons and the Worldwide Wrestling Federation withdrew from the organization. By March 1979, for marketing purposes, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation was renamed the World Wrestling Federation. That same year, Vincent J. McMahon's son, Vincent K. McMahon, founded Titan Sports, originally in Massachusetts. In 1982, Titan Sports acquired Capitol's operations, effectively relocating its headquarters to Greenwich, Connecticut. In an attempt to make the WWF the premier wrestling promotion in the world, McMahon began an expansion that fundamentally changed the industry. In the end, Vince McMahon Sr. would never live to see his company grow from a territorial promotion to what it is now, a worldwide organization. He passed away on May 24, 1984 at 69 years old. By 1985, Titan moved to Stamford, Connecticut, then later changed its name to World Wrestling Federation Entertainment before finally becoming World Wrestling Entertainment in 2002. That was the untold story of the Capitol Wrestling Corporation.